Between now and Selection Sunday on March 13th, there are still tons of regular season college basketball action to go. Plus, all of the conference tournaments and WagerTalk and Sports Memo are announcing their March Madness Bonanza special, which includes the rest of college basketball regular season, conference tournaments, NCAA tournament through the national championship, and any plays released in the NIT or CBI tournaments. Sign up for this promotion now at your favorite handicappers homepage and get the rest of the college basketball season through the national championship on Monday, April 4th for just $177. That's under $5 a day for one of the best betting experience in sports. Act fast as the March Madness Bonanza special is only available for a limited time.
We are live. It is Friday, March 4th, WagerTalk Today, and this is the Friday/weekend edition of WagerTalk Today because we're on live every Monday through Friday, 12 Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on WagerTalk TV. And don't forget, archive 24/7 for your weekend viewing pleasure as well. And don't forget about the podcast version. Listen to us audio style on your favorite podcast app, WagerTalk Today from WagerTalk.com. Great Friday show. I'm Steve Merril, joined by my co-host Teddy Covers as always. And the Prez will be back on Monday. Don't you fret, Teddy. You'll have him very soon. He will be back as we speak on Monday. He's flying back to Canada this weekend from sunny Florida. We'll see how that's changed his handicap and approach. We got a great Friday show, though, as always. Rob Veno leads us off. Rob's going to look at Ohio Valley Conference tournament action, also some NBA. Bucks and Bulls, a big one there in the NBA tonight. We've got Hakeem Profit also looking at some NBA, Pacers and Pistons, Wolves and Thunder. Get a little big game breakdown as we head back to the college conference tournaments from you, Teddy, as we're going to look at Bradley, Loyola, Chicago. And then we finish it off with the prop master, Andy Lang. We're going to speak some NASCAR. You know, I mentioned it's a weekend show. I love it. Andy and I are going to talk some NASCAR. We'll let you chime in if you'd like as well, Teddy, on that conversation. And then, of course, I'm going to let you handle the NBA player props with them. I'll make that deal. I'll do the NASCAR. You do the 2 NBA player props with Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com. But before we get to all of that, Thursday night, some West Coast hoops, some NBA last night. What did you learn, Teddy Covers?
Sure. So one of the things I like to do, I like to follow what's going on in the industry. I follow one of the guys on Twitter that I follow, Dustin Cooker. Excellent follow. He talks a lot about the state of the industry. I've had him on Cover It with Teddy Covers on Sirius XM channel 159. A couple times. So he's a good follow. And he was retweeting this guy, Martin Ostermule, yesterday, who is a Washington, D.C. based reporter, talking about, and it's funny, it's genuinely funny, talking about how in the world of sports betting, where every single book is making money, the sports betting app for Washington, D.C. found a way to cost the city $4 million in the first year. That's a net negative. That's hard to do. All right. Of course, you know what it was. They hired a company that's the CEO is based out of Greece. Frank Suarez, head of the new D.C. Lottery Commission. And note, it's the D.C. Lottery Commission who's in charge of this. You know, it's not the gaming board. It's the Lottery Commission. Quote, it's a startup. You have to build a brand. You have to acquire players. They only have 30,000 registered users. And, of course, the app went down for Apple users on Super Bowl Sunday. 60% of the users are on Apple. So that was certainly a concern. Suarez, quote, should it happen again during March Madness, we would have to come back and evaluate what options we have under the contract. But this is the quote that made me want to bring this up right at the top. All right. Here's the third quote from the head of the D.C. Lottery Commission. That's worth noting. All right. Again, they have one sports book that they authorized. That sports book just lost $4 million last year. Okay. Quote, the idea that multiple providers is the thing that's going to drive up the revenue is not really proven. That's someone that doesn't know the industry, and that's who's running the sports betting in D.C. Expect more losses. That's all I'm going to say. And if you're a sports book that's losing money, you're doing something wrong. What did you learn last night, Steve?
I want to piggyback on that because, of course, I grew up in the D.C. area. I know it very well, and not a surprise that when government gets involved in something, they screw it up. That's my take of that, as opposed to every other state that has the private companies DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, all of them, the private companies running the sports books. And Virginia, of course, got it over a year ago. And I'll give the Virginia example of how they took a good thing and tried to mess it up as well. Luckily, they weren't able to, but they tried the best to. The last hour, they weren't going to get it passed because the House wanted no college betting whatsoever. The Senate was okay with all of it. And I'd worked pretty closely with some people in the Senate. They understood what worked. I said, you don't want to push college betting underground. That defeats the whole purpose of having it legalized. So at the last hour, they did not allow college betting from the state of Virginia only, so no UVA, Virginia Tech, but it wouldn't have gotten passed or otherwise. So I was okay with that. Went into law July 1st, 2020, and they could have had it the next day. They could have had the sports books. They knew since March they were going to have it in July. The lottery was running it also, and they were going to have a application process set up by the end of October. And then they would have the first applications approved by January. And the first sports book was approved on NFC AFC championship games Sunday a year ago on January 2021. So they missed the entire NFL season for no reason. Pretty much barely got the Super Bowl in, but they've had a good run since. And they've got like at least 10 operators now. And they had some serious tax revenue off of that with no risk. Let's not forget there's no risk on their end. It's just pure profit. And DC was trying to be greedy, I guess. They wanted it all to themselves, and we saw what happened. But DC, for the most part, is not a well-run city. It hasn't been for decades, and I find that comical. I'm actually glad to see it, Teddy, because they deserve it. They took a simple concept and messed it up. Let's get back to sports. So you learn anything last night in college or pro hoops?
That's why. What did you learn last night, Steve? My job's come up with one thing that's interesting to talk about at the top of the show.
I'll throw it back.
Hoops last night.
Well, here's actually one I thought you're going to probably use, so I'll definitely have it. I'll use it myself. We got Hakeem Profit on it a little bit, big Lakers fan. You touched on this in a big game breakdown earlier this week. Tread lightly with the Lakers, right? I know Anthony Davis is still out, but they had LeBron last night, and that game was maybe a 3-point game at the half. I turned it back on in the third quarter. The Clippers had gone on a 32-6 run to be up by over 30 points. Your take on that? I mean, is there a chance the Lakers are not going to make the playoffs? Or the 9 seed going in last night, the Clippers were the 8 seed?
Of course there's a chance the Lakers aren't going to make the playoffs. The Lakers aren't any good, all right? And it seems to be taking the betting markets a long time to figure that out. It seems to be taking the general public a long time to figure that out. But when teams come out of the All-Star break and start losing the way they went into the All-Star break losing, the switch isn't getting flipped on. There's no switch for the Lakers to flip. They are what they are, which is a very old team that's getting outplayed by everyone who has got more energy than they are. Easy team to fade. And, of course, I think 20 regular season games left for the Lakers. If you bet against them every game, you think you'll go 11-9 or better? I do.
Yeah, I mean, because you're going to get the must-win factor, right? And I say this in all sports. If a team was good enough to win when they had to win, they wouldn't be in must-win situations, right? So that's going to come up with the Lakers if they're in that 9 seed scenario for a while. They're going to be in these must-win games for the next 20, basically, and they're going to tend to be overvalued in the betting markets. By the way, 26-35 ATS this year. The Lakers are. They're also 2-10 straight up in divisional games, so something to keep an eye on. Rob Veno keeps an eye on all this stuff. He's an NBA expert. Rob's been as profitable the last years in the NBA as anybody at WagerTalk.com. And Rob, before we dig into some college hoops and also an NBA game, I'll get your thoughts real quickly on the Lakers. Next 20 games, you blindly play against them. Do you make money?
Oh, I think so. I hate to say that with Skee listening. I hope he isn't put any headphones on yet.
He's not listening.
Teddy, I know yesterday. Yeah, well, you know what? When that second half started, 2 minutes in, I had to start drinking to help him out a little bit because it was brutal. We were all together yesterday, TC. You rained on his parade a little bit, pointing out the Clippers were a solid play. I'd be interested to know, Teddy, exactly where you have them power rated. This may shock people in the NBA. Have that team on a neutral floor ranked 22nd in the NBA right now. That goes to the point of Teddy saying they're just no good. The teams that they're ahead of, anybody would say are no good. They're all lottery teams. They're playing like a lottery team right now. I'm in total agreement with what you guys have been saying about the Lakers.
Yeah, and I've got them looking at where 7 wins behind the Clippers, 4 behind of the loss. And so if that was 8-9 game last night, they're good 4.5, 5 spots behind the team they got to pass, basically.
Yeah, there's a good chance they don't make it, Steve.
Right now, I got the Lakers behind the Pacers in my power ratings. Okay, half point behind.
And I've got.
Wow, Pacers, by the way, folks. Pacers are 20 games below 500. 20 games below 500 the Pacers.
I've got the Lakers
Better than
a half point better than the Pistons and a half point better than the Wizards.
Wow.
That's where I have the
Man, we're
Lakers.
almost identical, Teddy, except for the fact that I have the Lakers a shade ahead of Indiana, but the next three in line are Knicks, Pistons, Wizards. So we're both right there. Back to your question, Steve, there's a real good shot they don't make the playoffs. There's a real good shot.
Yeah.
New Orleans
Well, I
is
mean,
coming.
based
I'd
on those
expect
numbers,
New Orleans to pass them.
Yeah, so based on those numbers,
Yeah.
they definitely should not make the playoffs. You're talking about an Indiana team that's 20 games below 500 and a Pistons team that's 16-47, and you guys have them in that ballpark. So, but, it is the NBA, it is LeBron, it is Anthony Davis. There's always that conspiracy theory, but they're going to have to win a lot of games to catch up. And even the NBA can't have any more COVID shutdowns, forfeits for all their opponents at this point. It's going to be tough to sneak them in. Let's talk about a better game tonight, Rob, though. We'll stick it with the NBA. Bucks Bulls. Chicago quietly having a fantastic season. They're still in first in the Central. Really good offensive team. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I'm going to fade them tonight, guys. I kind of agree with the line movement here, which has seen the Bucks push up to what I saw as -5 before we came on the air. Kind of simple reasons. First off, we hate to totally believe what we see with our eyes. Therefore, we keep stuff like power ratings and current form. But to me, the Bulls just look tired right now. They've had a really good run, as you mentioned, Steve. Here, they're going to be in a back-to-back situation. It's a short bench. I wonder if there's depth fatigue on this team. I would question, it's not on the injury report yet, but let me point out that Zach LaVine in back-to-back games for the Chicago Bulls since January 1st, the Bulls have been in 7 back-to-back situations. Zach LaVine has sat either the front or back end in 5 of those 7. Very possible he's been injured this year, that we get something mid-afternoon where he doesn't go. I think he may try and give it a go here just because it's the Bucks and it's an important game. If the Bucks win this game, they shift right into the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference due to the tiebreaker. They went on a 2-0 edge in season series against the Bulls, beat them 94-90 previously. But they come off a track meet with the Atlanta Hawks last night, and now they're going to get involved in another track meet with the Milwaukee Bucks with 0 rest. You have to wonder about DeMar DeRozan fatigue as well. 38 minutes, 40 seconds last night, just a shade under 39 minutes, and he's been carrying the team all season long. Nikola Vucevic at center, heavy minutes all season long. I'm not saying they're, drop dead tired, but come fourth quarter, in a game like this, you just wonder about the Bulls' stamina at this point in time when your bench consists of Kobe White, Troy Brown Jr., Derek Jones Jr., and Tristan Thompson. Not that great. As I mentioned, there's a little motivation for the Bucks here. The Bucks are well rested. It's only their 3rd game since the break. Rest has been a pretty big factor in ATS wins and losses this year. It's been pointed out numerous times on the shows I've been on. And if you track it, it has been. So I think Milwaukee with motivation and rest, probably the right way to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a little bit of this push, guys, from 3.5 to 5 is in anticipation of Zach LaVine maybe taking a breather tonight. They're still in good playoff position. I don't know that they need to risk it with him and run them hard each and every night of back-to-backs. They certainly haven't done that since January 1st.
So, Rob, the Bulls have had all kinds of problems stepping up in class. When you look at Chicago against the 6 elite teams, other elite teams, the NBA teams, the winning percentage is above 600, they've won a grand total of 1 of those games all year. I think it's 1-11 now, or 1-12 against the elites. And obviously they're playing one of them tonight in Milwaukee. But the Bucks have had their fair share of problems covering as chalk. They're 0-5 their last 5 against the spread with just winning teams, and they've been failing to cover as favorites repeatedly. Does that concern you at all? And didn't cover as favorites the other night in that rally from behind win against Miami. Do you worry about the number here? A game that Milwaukee is supposed to win, but now they got to win by margin.
Yeah, slight concern, Teddy, because in short, when you see that total of 240.5, that's exactly what I expect here. You expect up and down. Neither team has played good defense. Let's face it, the Bucks may have a slight defensive edge, but again, they're a small team, just like the Bulls. I mean, Nikola Vucevic against Bobby Portis, in theory, should be able to score down low. But on the other end of the floor, is Vucevic going to chase Bobby Portis around the three-point line all night long? And I just think that by the time the fourth quarter comes in a game where you figure the winner is probably going to get to 125, I think 5 becomes a little smaller when you get up that high. I think Milwaukee can handle it, possibly big fourth quarter here. And maybe if you're a halftime, second half player, you can get some in-game here if it's close early on. But I think Milwaukee stretches it out here. They have had difficulties, as you mentioned, but I think a pretty good focus here. And off that big win the other night, certainly there should be some confidence.
And that's the ESPN game tonight, guys, 7:30 Eastern Friday. So it's a big one, Milwaukee and Chicago. And don't forget, if you want more NBA talk, every Monday through Friday at 4:15 Eastern, NBA tip-off show. Teddy and Rob were on yesterday at Thursday, and I'll be on tonight on Friday with Andy Lang. He'll be on a little bit later here with us in a moment as well, and Joe Ranieri, of course. So NBA tip-off show, 4:15 Eastern. And by the way, I think I'm going to make a little guest appearance on the J Money show here after this one at 1 o'clock Eastern. So check out the J Money NBA talk show on YouTube. I know you guys have been on before. I'll be perhaps making my debut today on Friday, so we'll check that out as well. Rob, let's transition over to some college hoops. Ohio Valley Conference tournament action. Morehead State, a dog against Belmont. How are you looking at this one?
Yeah, guys, I promise I'll get us out of here by 12:20, but it's Belmont, so let me speak. I like Morehead, guys, and it kills me to say that. My oldest son went to Belmont, so I've been in that gym, and it's a program I follow really, really closely. They've always had a good basketball team, but here I like Morehead plus the 4. Let's state some reasons here. I'll give you a little insight into the Belmont program. Morehead 4-0 against the spread, 3-1 straight up in the last 4 against Belmont, and it's a problem this year, particularly for Belmont, with the top 2 defensive efficiency teams in the Ohio Valley, Morehead State and Murray State, where they have not been able to score points against these 2 teams that are very athletic and quick on the defensive end. In those 4 games, real quick before I get to the other stuff, they scored 43 against Murray State, 48 against Morehead State, 60 against Murray, and then their high was 74 against Morehead in the first of 2 meetings. Belmont's offensive strengths, as we all know, 3-point shooting, it's been that way forever. And their center, Nick Muszynski, the last 4 games against Morehead State, Belmont's 3-point shooting has gone a combined 34 of 120, only 28.3%. Therein lies half the reason why they have not been successful against this team. Their low was a 16.7% performance last time out against Morehead. The high was only 34.5. It's just not going to cut it against this team. They got 5 guys that they depend on from beyond the arc. And 4 of those were on the team last year in the championship game against this same Morehead State team. Those guys, Ben Shepherd, 28% from 3 in 4 games against Morehead, last 4 games. Luke Smith, 27.2. Will Richards, 0% from 3. Jacoby Wood, 13.3. Tate Pearson, the team's leading 3-point shooter, 25%. Nobody on this team that they count on has shot 30% from 3 against Morehead State last 4 games combined. It's terrible. Right now, they just don't match up well on that end. And if I get to the battle of the centers, folks who don't watch Ohio Valley, when you turn on the TV tonight, Morehead State has a center named Johnny Broom. He was a freshman last year, terrific freshman, sophomore this year. 4 games against Belmont, last 4 consecutive double-doubles. He's outplayed Belmont's star and premier player, Nick Muszynski, in every game they played. They've had 3 head-to-heads. Muszynski has been beaten on the boards, been beaten in points scored, been beaten in blocks. Broom's been a problem. The matchup just doesn't work here. I would say this. Last night, Morehead State went 9 deep, and the minutes were fine. They dispersed them really well between 14 and 29 because in tournament action, we start to look at back-to-backs, heavy minutes, so on and so forth. Not the case here for Morehead. And I think there's a possible advantage here. We always look at this too, guys. When they play on neutral floors in conference tournaments, the team that's on the back-to-back, first game to second game, may actually have an advantage because they've seen the rims, they've seen the background, maybe a little better for Morehead. I know this tournament was played here last year at the Ford Center in Evansville, but it's Belmont's first time here this year. So I think Morehead plus 4 probably the way to go here in what could be a close game. Could Belmont blow up and shoot threes tonight and wreck the bet? Certainly they could. But boy, they haven't proven it 4 games in a row.
Rob, real quick, the 2 meetings this year, One of them, 83-74, flies over the total. The rematch, 48-47, stays 49 points under the total. It sounds in your analysis like you're leaning towards the under in this one. Would that be the way you would look if you're betting the total?
I would, Teddy. I really would. They've seen a lot of each other, because they played late last year. All three meetings last year were late in the season from mid-February till the tournament. And then this year. So they know each other real well, patterns, sets, everything else. Both really good 2-point defensive teams. But Morehead State just has had that defensive edge against these guys. So I like Morehead plus, and if you were looking to play total, I would recommend under. I think I was showing 139 before we came on, and that had been bet down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm seeing $140.
Belmont Bruins semifinals against Morehead State, and Belmont has been a solid team in the Ohio Valley for years, as you said, Rob. Rob Veno, NBA, you saw what he did there. See a little college hoops. He's just crushed college and pro basketball for decades. Rob, what you got going on today on Friday? I guess more importantly this weekend as well at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, as everybody knows, this weekend and next week will be loaded. Conference tournament action, NCAA postseason action. You got to be up early and often check our plays because lines come up sporadically, late games, early games. So check it out all weekend long. I'll be up there. Tonight, if you go right now, you can get a 4% best bet NBA up and available, WagerTalk.com.
Love it. Rob Veno, WagerTalk.com, and you can check him out every Friday here on Wager Talk Today, and also numerous times a week on the NBA Tip-Off Show at 4:15 Eastern, Monday through Friday as well. That's Rob Veno. Teddy, we're going to keep it in some college conference tournament action. Look at the Missouri Valley, I believe. A little big game breakdown from Teddy Covers in 30 seconds.
Between now and Selection Sunday on March 13th, there are still tons of regular season college basketball action to go. Plus, all of the conference tournaments and Wager Talk and Sports Memo are announcing their March Madness Bonanza special, which includes the rest of college basketball regular season, conference tournaments, NCAA tournament through the national championship, and any plays released in the NIT or CBI tournaments. Sign up for this promotion now at your favorite handicappers homepage and get the rest of the college basketball season through the national championship on Monday, April 4th for just $177. That's under $5 a day for one of the best betting experience in sports. Act fast as the March Madness Bonanza special is only available for a limited time.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's go to St. Louis for Arch Madness. This is the unofficial beginning of March Madness for the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament. This is an early start game. 12:30 here, Pacific time, 3:30 for you guys back east. And let's talk about the Bradley Braves taking on the Loyola Chicago Ramblers. And this is a client play. For my clients today as well, I thought I'd give it to you. And that would be Bradley plus the points. Look, these two teams played twice during the regular season. The first game, Bradley led by 16 in the second half, and they let it get away. The rematch, basically they led wire to wire against Loyola, who's been, obviously a team that's gotten, the only team from this conference that's gotten a national profile in recent years. We all remember the Final Four run. We all remember Sister Jean. Remember them winning this tournament last year. But in between that Final Four run and last year winning the tournament, the previous two tourneys, they lose outright as favorites. And that's kind of been their MO. Not covering as chalk. 2-8 minus against the spread. Their last 10 tries at minus 9.5 or lower. The competitive games, Loyola's been an overvalued commodity. You read the quotes coming out of the Bradley side, and this team is confident going into this game. Again, they played with this team. They beat them soundly once and led by 16 on the road in the other. They're confident, and this is a tournament where you look at the track record of the tournament, you want to be taking points and not laying them. Yeah, give me Bradley. The sixes are disappearing quickly. There's more 5.5s than sixes out there now, but if you shop around, you can still find a +6 with the Braves. I'm expecting a tight game start to finish. Give me Bradley plus the points. there's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merril.
Yeah, and Teddy, the odds will be off in about 30 minutes at 1 o'clock Eastern. But if you're fading the number one's the favorite here, Loyola is a plus $1.50 to win the conference tournament. Do you think there's some value with Bradley at 10-1? They're like 5th or 6th, I think, on the odds to win this conference tournament this weekend.
I don't even know they're going to win today. I'm expecting a close game. I'm much with a team like Bradley. If I'm going to make a move like that, I'll play a money line here, and then I'll play a money line again tomorrow. And then we'll see what happens for Sunday. But no, I don't know that the Braves. I don't know the Braves are live to make a run like that. That's the Northern Iowa's tough, Missouri State's tough, Drake's going to be tough. I mean, the Salukis are playing good. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and those are the 4 teams that are ahead of them is Missouri State, Northern Iowa, and Drake. And it'd be a good setup for Missouri State at 3-1, Northern Iowa to 5-1 would probably be where the value is if Bradley was able to knock off the top seed Loyola today on Friday. Once again, it's the quarterfinals. As Teddy said, there's 2 more rounds still after this. And quickly on the Moneyline Parlay, we hinted on this week on some episodes. If you're playing some of these future odds, especially with the NCAA tournament around the corner, if you're playing any of the top 10 teams or so, you're much better off doing a money line parlay. You take your $100 wager or whatever your unit is, you play it on that money line, you keep rolling it over and turn it into a 5 or 6 game parlay. You're going to get a much better payoff on Gonzaga, for example, instead of 3-1. You're going to get a better payoff on Arizona instead of 6-1, most likely. That's what a money line or a game by game money line parlay would be. And of course, you can always stop it or hedge it if needed as well if something changes. Let's get back though, Teddy, to the NBA. As we've got an NBA expert on here next, Skee Profit from WagerTalk.com. And, of course, Skee was on the NBA tip-off show yesterday on Thursday with Teddy Covers and Rob Veno. So we're going to complete that full circle. All we're missing is Joe Ranieri, but I'll be talking to him later today, so we'll make it count. Skee, welcome to the show. I will not ask you about the Lakers. We've already covered that topic before you came on. We did that so you would not have to talk about the Lakers. Yeah, you're welcome. You owe me one. Instead, let's talk about a team that Teddy had – actually, I'll bring it back to the Lakers, though. Teddy has this team right near him in his power ratings. That's the Detroit Pistons at 16-47. Pacers, Pistons. Actually, I think the Pacers you had within a point, right, Teddy? And they're 22-42.
Yeah. Pacers, Pistons, Knicks. That's where the Lakers are power rated right now, right in that range.
So there we go. We brought the Lakers back into the discussion because, lo and behold, the Pacers play the Pistons tonight. So it's kind of like the Lakers, Skee. How do you handicap this one?
Well, I can't let that go. I'm gonna just say, I don't think the Lakers are a good team. You're not gonna get any argument from me. I just thought, they may show up for a game, and it looks like they're not gonna show up for the rest of the season. So that's that. This game with Indiana and Detroit, I think, pretty all year long, I've been a big player of the rest advantage. Favorites with more rest than their opponent win about 71.5% of the time, going all the way back to 1995. Pistons. I think that's one of those teams you listed as the bottom feeders. I don't think they want to continue to win that many games anyway. I think, they won enough games. That's just kind of how I feel. So I'm playing this one, or I'm thinking about playing it, just back in the same system that I've been rocking with all year. Favorites are more rest than their opponent. I think Indiana's the better team, and they should get this W. I'm really going to look at a player prop. Detroit allowing the highest 3-point percentage in the league. I think since the All-Star break, you got 2 players you can look at here. It's going to be Buddy Hield. It's going to be Halliburton. You can play their 3-point numbers, or you can look at the point prop. I think the point prop is very low for both of them. You have Hield averaging 21.3 points per game since All-Star, shooting 41% from 3. His point prop is 17.5. You have Halliburton. He's averaging 20 points since the break. He's shooting, I think, 42% from 3. And his point prop is 17.5. So these are all guys that I'm targeting. Like you mentioned earlier, Steve, I woke up a little late today. Like Rob mentioned, I drunk myself to sleep after the Lakers. So I'm working it out. I'll be looking at Halliburton. I'll be looking at Buddy Hield. And I'll be looking at the Pacers tonight.
So I want to ask you, Skee, because we got Brogdon back in the lineup now for Indiana. And Brogdon was, with the difference between them winning and losing against the Magic the other night, he hit the key buckets down the stretch and an OT to get them the W. Are you worried that with Brogdon back on the floor, the production of Hield and Halliburton is going to go down? Because obviously those 3 guys are kind of splitting time in the backcourt positions between them. And I would think that Brogdon's going to take, or he certainly did the other night, take some of their attempts away. Does that concern you for this one?
Well, I haven't looked. I've looked closer at Halliburton when Brogdon is playing than I have Hill, and I know and he's played 3 games, I think, with Brogdon, and he's hit his point prop, I believe, in every single one of them. His assist prop, he missed in one of them. So I think he's going to continue to continue to produce. Like I said, in his 4 games, he averages 20.4 points, 9.6 assists, and 3 of those, I think, were with Brogdon. So I don't think it's really going to affect Halliburton. Hill, I can't say anything with confidence, but I'm still looking to play these players, Teddy. I don't think Brogdon is going to mess up my handicap for either one.
Yeah, and by the way, the Pistons might be 16 and 47 straight up, but they're actually 32 and 31 ATS. So they've covered double the games that they've won straight up. So they've been a little bit of a live dog.
And 6-0 against the spread the last 6 for Detroit. Since the last game before the All-Star break when they beat the Celtics, that team's been on fire ever since. Point spread wise, but obviously tough spot for them in the second of back-to-backs off a very satisfying win last night against the Pacers team that is coming in with extra rest.
Yeah, and Teddy, they've been a dog in all 6 of those, and they won 4 of them straight up. So it's not that they're just covering; they've won 4 of those outright. Skee, though, we got to talk about the worst team, best team in the league. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, this team, and Teddy and I touched on it earlier this week.
Steve.
Yeah.
If I could, before I move on from the trend or whatever that I mentioned, Rob backs me up all the time. I just want to say that the favorite with more rest in their opponent,
right,
that works for that Bucks game. And if you want to make it to where the thing I do is I call it ski line, or Joe Ranieri calls it profit line. You cover your spread wager with the money line bet, and in this instance, I see at BetMGM there's 4.5 -110 and -185. If you're doing it like you're covering your spread wager with your money line wager, you create a -149 line. Implied probability at that is less than 60%. And I'm telling you that these favorites are more rest in their opponent went 71.5% of the time going back 20 plus years. So I think, you could play it like that. I like that.
So you're saying, now explain that to people a little bit more, Skee. You're saying to split the play on the money line straight up and then on the point spread as the favorite?
Correct. So I'm going to work it out for you right now just because I have it in front of me. I use like a run line calculator. So for this one,
you go, Skee. Let me talk about the concept real quick. So Koken was doing this a lot last year in MLB, where you're laying one and instead of where you're creating kind of a -1 line in baseball.
Correct.
Where you're putting some of your wager to win and some -1.5. And Skee's doing the same thing in the NBA right now. That's working really well because he keeps doing it, where you're betting some of your wager on the favorite, on the money line, and some minus the point. So basically, if they win the game, you're going to push. And if they win by margin, you get a double victory. So it doesn't cost you anything if they win the game and don't cover. Is that right, Skee?
I knew you were my friend, Teddy. You always have my back. Even though, you punched me and threw me around with the Lakers yesterday. It's all good. I appreciate it.
It was too easy.
So, I mean, the Lakers are the team that threw you around with the Lakers yesterday. I don't think that was Teddy or your fault, Skee. It is what it is. The third quarter is what threw you around with the Lakers yesterday.
26
I don't know if this
run.
would. Now, does that apply tonight? Because we've seen it Minnesota Timberwolves open -8. Now it's up to 9.5. And that's against the best point spread team in the league, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have gone 39 and 21 ATS, but they're just 20 and 42 straight up. They are coming off a huge upset. They were a 14.5-point dog against the Denver Nuggets the other night, and they were plus 900 on the money line in that one, won the game straight up. Minnesota also an outright dog win against Golden State, though. Does either team let down? How do you play this one?
Well, I'm not really focused on the spread, but what I will say about that is Minnesota is not a team that I trust defensively. They're giving up, especially since the All-Star break, or even before then, 120 plus points per game. So expecting them to win by margin, double digits, is not something I'm interested in doing. It'll be OKC plus for me if I'm betting the side. I was the first thing that caught my attention in this game was the total. And you have two teams since the All-Star break, top 10 in pace. Already talked about Minnesota's defense. OKC hasn't really been that great either. They're allowing 121.8 points per game. Both teams since the All-Star combined 7-1 to the over, and both teams average higher than this 230.5 mark that we're staring at today. So I think it's more of an over type game. And if I'm going to play maybe anything else in this one, I would look at SGA. Like I mentioned, Minnesota allowing as far as his average since All-Star, it goes over this 41.5 number. So if I'm going to play this game, it's SGA, points, rebounds, assists. It's the over on the full game, or it's OKC plus the points.
Yeah, and by the way, the T-Wolves have had at least 230 points or more in their last 10 games. They've gone 8-2 to the over in those. And the Thunder have gone over 6 straight. We talk about how bad they've been offensively this year. They've been much better scoring team, just playing faster also those last 6 games. And they've gone over 230 or more in 4 of those 6, 228 or more in 5 of the 6. So like where you're going with the over, could this possibly be the overtime segment on NBA Tip-Off at 4:15 Eastern? We will find out. I will be there to let you know with Joe Ranieri. Skee, on the way out, what else you got going on at WagerTalk.com Friday, maybe this weekend?
Well, I want to keep it consistent. I didn't do it before I started. I always say how I did yesterday and how I've been doing. Had a bad day. I went 3-9, but overall this week 27-20. As far as my last 496 plays, 281 wins, 215 losses, 56.6%. As far as tonight, I've made 2 wagers, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more by the time NBA tips off.
I love it. And Skee knows the math, as you can tell. Skee Profit, WagerTalk.com. Great seeing you, Skee. And you can catch Skee multiple times a week, as you can catch Rob Veno, Teddy Coverns, and myself on the NBA Tip-Off Show at 4:15 Eastern. I just confirmed with Jay Money I will be on NBA Talks here at 1 o'clock Eastern with Jay. So if you want more NBA talk, you don't have to wait long right after this show. Check out Jay Money NBA Talk on YouTube as well. I'll put it on Twitter also. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter at Steve Merril. 2 R's, 1 L. You can follow Teddy Covers, Teddy_Covers on Twitter as well. And our next guest is Bump Sports, and that's Andy Lang. Bump Sports, and that's because he covers NASCAR. And I'm not going to even ask Teddy to get into this one, Andy. I'll start it off because I'm excited to talk some NASCAR. We don't have our life in the fast lane. That's right, Teddy. You get to learn on this segment. But Andy's doing some solo videos. I highly recommend checking them out. We figured it'd be a more efficient way to get some quick-hitting NASCAR information to you each week. Andy does a great job, of course, with those videos. And Andy, they switched to a new car this year. We have practice times, which is a huge data source, I think, for handicappers. So I recommend checking that out. But we're on a cookie cutter track this week, and I've actually been to a race at Las Vegas years ago. And the story I always tell is that you normally can bring in coolers and drinks and everything to NASCAR events. That's one of the selling points. We get there, first of all, as you know, Teddy, it's like a 45-minute ride out to the desert near the Air Force Base. And as you get there,
not that far.
Well, it seemed pretty far. When you're crammed on a bus,
nothing in Vegas is 45 minutes out, dude. It's half hour.
I'll tell you right now, it had to be at least 30. It was a miserably long ride out and back from what I remember, but this was over a decade
There's
ago.
always traffic.
Maybe that's what it was. 45-minute ride maybe with traffic. And it was race day, so it was pretty crowded. But we get there, and it's like a noon start Pacific time, and there's pyramids of beer cases and cans, hundreds and hundreds of unopened beers stacked at the entrance, and they would not let you bring drinks into that track. It was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. I always thought it was interesting that Vegas, of all places, you couldn't bring a drink into the NASCAR track, but Richmond, my home track, you bring coolers full. But that was an interesting experience, Teddy, and another reason I don't recommend going to the Vegas race. He's still speechless.
So,
Andy,
I went to one race randomly. It wasn't a race, but it was one of those deals like a Saturday in the spring, and Kara and I were just driving around. We're like, oh, look, there's something going on at the racetrack. Let's go check it out. We've never been there. And it was like funny cars with the big engines, and they were doing like the sprints, the little sprints. I don't think we lasted 20 minutes, dude. I bought tickets. We went inside. It was so loud. I was like, let's just go. She's like, okay. So I've been there once. Not my thing.
Yeah, and Teddy, I will tell you right now, Las Vegas isn't the best track to bring a newbie to because it's a boring race, Andy. I mean, it's a mile and a half. We call them cookie cutters, Teddy, because half the tracks on the circuit are these 1.5 mile, 2 mile ovals, and they just run circles. But from a handicapping perspective, I think they're the best tracks to handicap because we have so much data, so much consistency. It's not random like the Daytona 500 where there's a big crash that takes out half the field. Last week was California, a 2 mile track, very similar. It's a cookie cutter as well. Kyle Larson, Andy, wins the race, the usual suspect, but it wasn't that simple. We had Suarez at 100-1 almost win the race. We had Eric Jones, the highest driver rating. He was a bit of a long shot, 50-1. We had Tyler Reddick win the first 2 stages. He probably should have won the race, but he gets taken out with a flat tire. Some crazy stuff to look at in Vegas. Andy will have his video up. But, Andy, give us a head-to-head matchup before we get to some NBA props, maybe a freebie here for the viewers.
That Las Vegas thing about not being able to bring beers. We used to bring kegs into the Indy 500, into the infield, like kegs, like a van full of them. So yeah, there's a play up on DraftKings that I really like, Steve. It's Eric Jones over Christopher Bell. And it's to new followers of NASCAR, it's kind of hard to describe, but basically the cars that they are driving this year, they have never driven before. The setup is completely different. So it's kind of like a level playing field at this point. And what we saw last week was some teams struggle and some teams thrive. And one team that struggled, Steve, was the Joe Gibbs cars. They did not have any of their cars inside the top 12. Truex, Kyle Busch, and Hamlin finished 13th, 14th, and 15th. And Christopher Bell had an engine problem. He was one of the few cars that had an actual engine problem, whereas we saw the Chevy cars finished 1, 2, 3, 4. Eric Jones was a big surprise. He finished third. His talent, there's no question about his talent, and it looks like he's got a good car and a good setup. So when I talked about in the NASCAR videos, we've got probably a good 3 to 4, maybe 5 race sample where we can look at these early starts and wait for these teams that are struggling to get their act together. So I'm looking at fading these Gibbs cars, and you're getting a really good price because Christopher Bell's it's supposedly in a better car, but it doesn't appear like he is. And I will take Eric Jones in the Chevy to duplicate his performance while the Gibb cars kind of work out their kinks. So that one's up on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, and as Andy's pointing out, it's really a level playing field right now with this new car and uncertainty. So not only do we have to be careful with past track histories, we really have to pay attention to the practice times. And practice, by the way, viewers, is going to be this Saturday, 1:30 Eastern, and then a qualifying will be Saturday right after that. So we'll get some practice times. Really look at the practice times. Qualifying sometimes can be misleading, but see who's fast in practice because it translates to the actual race conditions. And this is the Las Vegas race this week. And Andy Lang does have his video ready for WagerTalk TV for a full NASCAR preview. Andy is the prop master, though. He also dominates props in the NBA. I believe you'll be on with me today, Andy, at 4:15 Eastern on the NBA tip-off show later, talking about props in a lot of the games. Give us something to look at here for Friday night.
Well, we have a 5% prop that is up right now on wagertalk.com, and we're going to attach all of our props today to that. So if you went at the 5% play, you're going to get a bunch of other props that we like tonight. So I'll go over a couple here. Julius Randle, under 35.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's a curious case. He flew over his points, rebounds, and assists in 8 straight games leading into the All-Star break and the trade deadline. But before that, he went under in 5 out of 6. And there were some rumblings about maybe he was excited to be traded. So maybe he poured it on a little bit going into the trade deadline, and then he didn't get traded. So what happens? He comes out of the All-Star break. He's gone under his points, rebounds, and assists in 3 straight games. They're playing Phoenix tonight. That's a top 10 team combined guarding centers and power forwards. RJ Barrett has been on fire the last 3 games. He scored 46, 24, and 30. So he's been the one on the Knicks flying over his points, rebounds, and assists. And when you get a guy like that, sometimes it's hard for other players to absorb some more points. I think the Knicks probably have better matchups than Julius Randle going at Jay Crowder. So I'm going to ride this Julius Randle streak under 35.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
So you chose points, rebounds, and assists as opposed to points or rebounds or assists. Talk about why the trio is better than just bet against him. He's been ice cold from the floor in recent ball games. He has not shot the ball well since the break.
Yeah, he definitely has not been shooting the ball. I like to add rebounds and assists to this one because he's been pretty inconsistent. When you look at his rebounding numbers, they're down a little bit. You look at some of these numbers going into the break and it's, 10, 16, 16, 13, 10. And you look at his assist numbers and he only had 3 assists last game and only 6 rebounds against Philadelphia. I think Ayton and Crowder are going to be a problem with him. So when you have a total like 35.5 with a guy like this and you have all 3 categories, if just one category goes low, you're probably going to be in good shape. And we look at that Philly game where he only had 3 assists. If he only gets 3 assists, it's going to be hard for him to get over 35.5. So I'm going to take all 3 categories in this one.
Andy Lang, the prop master, Andy Lang. And once again, if you want more NBA props from Andy, check out the NBA tip-off show, 4:15 Eastern today on Friday. We go through several games, and Andy looks at them, not sometimes from a side and total perspective, but always from a prop perspective. It's a great way to diversify your portfolio because keep in mind, folks, this is an investment. Sports betting is a long-term investment. and add a little NASCAR to that portfolio as well. Andy knows his NASCAR. I will vouch for you, Andy. Done the NASCAR show with you for over 2 years. I know you know your stuff. What else you got going on this week in WagerTalk.com? Anything for the UFC event?
Nothing loaded right now. I'm happy to say we did hit our Thursday darts play. We have darts every Thursday. We do. We're number one on Wager Talking Darts. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
You're first and last. I understand you're also last at Wager Talking Darts.
That's one way to look at it. We're on a 3-1 darts run. That's a phrase I didn't think I would be using this year, but we did hit that. The 5% MB plays up. And Steve, one of the things with NASCAR that we do, I've been telling people this: if you're going to bet NASCAR, you have to have a Bovada account. The last 2 weeks, they've been the first one to come out with their lines, and they've had the most plays. They've kind of cemented themselves as the best book to bet on NASCAR. So if you're going to get those plays, I would encourage you to do that. Looks like lines come out on Sunday mornings. So look forward to that, and look forward to a 5% winner tonight and throughout the weekend. Should have a good NBA slate.
That's Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com. Once again, he'll be on with me at 4:15 Eastern, talking more NBA player props here on Wager Talk TV. And Teddy, that's going to do it. We were not able to squeeze in a presidential address. The sports books have announced they're going to pay out. If anyone guessed airport was where this one was going to be filmed, they're going to actually give you a refund on that, because that was probably where it was going to be filmed, but we weren't able logistically to get it done. Federal, travel regulations. My guess, he probably got apprehended at the checkpoints or something. But that'll do it for this week's Wager Talk Today episodes, and the Prez will be back on Monday. He's flying home as we speak. So, Teddy, prepare yourself for that. Have a nice weekend while you can. Thank you to Rob Veno, Andy Lang, and, of course, Skee Profit. Don't forget college basketball tip-off in 1 hour here at 1:45 Eastern, and then the NBA tip-off show 4:15 Eastern. You can check me out here on J Money NBA Talk here at 1 o'clock on his channel on YouTube. And don't forget, Teddy, 177 gets the rest of the college basketball season for every capper at WagerTalk.com. Me, you, everyone else. You can lock in multiple cappers. You're getting the NCAA tournament for 177, and you're getting the next week for free, because it's going to be the same price a week from now. No promo code needed. WagerTalk.com. Teddy, I've enjoyed doing the show with you all week. Take us home for the weekend.
I enjoy doing the show with you every time I get a chance, Steve. But we'll get Prez back in the fold for next week, and that should be fun too. And of course, one thing we gotta say, just remind you, we are having that big party right here in Las Vegas on the Friday of March Madness, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Westgate Superbook. If you're thinking about coming, come, say hi. It's free. We're going to get everybody drunk, all on us. So come have fun. We'll have food. We'll have beverages. We'll watch a bunch of games. And a lot of the guys and gals will be here from WagerTalk at sportsmemo.com. That's going to wrap it for the week. We'll do it again on Monday and every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon for you back east. Between now and then, enjoy the games. Have a great weekend. Good luck.
Between now and Selection Sunday on March 13th, there are still tons of regular season college basketball action to go. Plus, all of the conference tournaments and Wager Talk and Sports Memo are announcing their March Madness Bonanza special, which includes the rest of college basketball regular season, conference tournaments, NCAA tournament through the national championship, and any plays released in the NIT or CBI tournaments. Sign up for this promotion now at your favorite handicappers homepage and get the rest of the college basketball season through the national championship on Monday, April 4th for just $177. That's under $5 a day for one of the best betting experience in sports. Act fast, as the March Madness Bonanza special is only available for a limited time.